Brilliant. Thanks, John. Yeah, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining. As John says, we've got a deck here, a bit of an introduction to paid media, with a bit of a slant towards e-commerce and selling. Hopefully you get something from it. I've been doing this for close to 15 years now, most of that time with John, actually, on and off. So hopefully there's a few snippets of information and a few sort of pointers that I can put in front of you that will be useful. We will have time at the end for questions. So if you do have any questions you want to ask, we'll have plenty of time at the end. But if there's anything you do want to jump in and ask while we're presenting, I'm happy with that. I actually like that sometimes, or often. It can kind of lead in different directions and get a good conversation going. So if there's anything you really want to ask while we're presenting, just raise your hand, put it in the chat. Also, if you want to put questions in the chat for afterwards, John's going to keep an eye on that as well. So yeah, hopefully this will be useful from an e-commerce perspective. I'm going to now share my screen, and we will get started. So yeah, can everyone see that? I'm going to take that as a yes. Brilliant. Okay. So paid media for e-commerce. Welcome to the presentation. We're going to first of all just cover a few basics in terms of what paid media is and why you should be looking at it. For the purpose of the presentation, we will err on the side of Google and Google ad formats. But we will also kind of, make it clear that there are other platforms available, as they say. But I think as we're talking from a kind of very focused on e-commerce today, it makes sense to talk or to focus more on the big player in terms of the advertising space, which is Google, obviously. A lot of what we talk about in terms of Google from a strategy and from a theory perspective applies to all of the platforms, right from Facebook through to TikTok and Pinterest. There are some nuances and where I think they're worth pointing out, I will do. But in terms of the key benefits, well, pay-per-click, paid media, it's known by lots of different phrases, different titles. In theory, or kind of, one of the benefits of it is that you only pay when someone clicks on your ad and visits your website. So if you get this right, you're paying for qualified traffic that then has a high likelihood of converting. And again, we're going to focus on sales, but that conversion could be a download of a white label report. It could be a video view. It could be a form fill. So there's lots of things that you can do with paid media. But essentially, you're only paying when someone shows interest. Again, it's quite a good USP. There's lots of control over what you do and where your ads are shown. And again, this is one of the things that I talk a lot about on various different presentations. One of the barriers seems to be often with people who are not experienced with paid media and pay-per-click, one of the barriers is always the kind of control that you get over it. How do I know that I'm getting in front of the right people? Well, if you do this right and you understand the system, there are lots of things that you do have control over. And those things cumulatively give you a lot of focus and should, in theory, get you in front of a very qualified audience. So you can target by location. All platforms have that kind of ability. TikTok is the least successful in targeting by location. And by that, I mean their kind of areas of targeting are larger at the moment than many of the other platforms. With Google, you can literally go down to postcode and target by postcode. So you're in some instances, you're looking at a few streets or a few blocks. You can target by city, by county, by country, all those kind of things, obviously. So there's a lot of control that you've got over there, which can be quite attractive, particularly if you're a local business. But again, if you're breaking into new markets, again, you can set up campaigns that are specific to a new market or a new area. You've also got the demographic side of things. Again, relates to all platforms, not just Google. You can target by age, gender. Those are the obvious ones. But there's a whole list of kind of off-the-shelf things that you can have at your disposal when you're creating your audience and you're kind of targeting in any of these platforms. Interests and topics is an interesting one, because obviously all these platforms have lots of data about the people that use them, and about the people that use the internet, and they can identify people who are interested in travel. They can identify people who are interested in music, films, all sorts of different things. There's literally hundreds, if not thousands, of different options there that you can attach your targeting to. And again, if you understand your audience, if you've done your research, those kind of things can be really interesting, because it's a way of sort of focusing down, separating the wheat from the chaff, all of that kind of stuff, and just making sure that the people who see your ads are very qualified and very relevant. You get to do what we call keyword research. Now, keyword research is absolutely fundamental to search advertising, which, if you look on this slide bottom right, those listings that we've got there are very much driven by keywords. So, someone types into Google or any search engine what they're looking for. Somebody has set up a campaign to target that person searching for that particular thing or product or service or whatever it might be, and Google and whatever platform delivers their ad. So you've got the control in terms of what people are looking for, and you've got the ability to match it up with what you've got to offer. Obviously, anything that you're not targeting in terms of keywords and searches, you're not going to be delivered. Again, just a bit of efficiency there. But the keywords, as I'll kind of point out in a few slides time, keywords are not just about search ads. They are fundamental to your shopping campaigns, your YouTube campaigns, and even your kind of on-page content. The keyword research should apply to all of those things and all of that content that you're delivering, whether it's organic, paid, or whatever platform it might be sitting on. The keywords are key in terms of your digital exposure, your digital footprint, etc., and your reach and visibility, certainly in terms of your campaigns. You get the ability to command as much real estate as possible, and by this I mean, I've been doing this, as I say, for quite a long time now. So I remember when it was just 3 lines of text that would appear on a search page in terms of your marketing or your search ad. There's a lot more to it now. You can include information about other sections on your website, other services or products that appear alongside your standard ad. Google's introduced images. They've tested video alongside your ad as well. There's lots of information about your business. And again, if you're using, particularly with Google, if you're using lots of Google products, you have the ability to have a search ad, a shopping ad, a business listing, all of that kind of stuff on the same page, which again, if you think about it, the real estate opportunity there is massive. So if you want to kind of push the competition a bit lower down the page, which is very relevant on mobile, obviously, because it's a smaller screen, then you have the ability to do that if you get things right. Very attractive in terms of if you're in a marketplace that is quite competitive. And again, we'll kind of point out a few ways to do that later on. In terms of control, you have the ability to control the message. It is one of the differences that paid offers compared to organic strategy. Organic, yes, there is a certain degree of control there in that you will create the content for your page. You will ask Google search engines to index your content on different pages. And you hope that Google and the Google algorithm, at whatever state it currently is in, will look at that content on that page and will deliver that page as an organic listing for the right search term. It doesn't always happen. You kind of set up a page for product A, expecting people to search for product A and see that page, and actually Google looks at page for product B and delivers that one instead. It's getting better, and Google has obviously improved things over the last decade in terms of doing that. Their thing is all about relevance, so why wouldn't they? But we can be sure that when we're dealing with paid media and paid search and paid advertising, whatever we create, whatever we say, whatever message we put out there is 100% the message that people are going to see. And there's a bit of a kind of ambiguity there in terms of how that works for organic. One of the big things about paid media, and particularly when we're talking about search and shopping ads, which are the two things that we've got listed here or shown here on the slide, you're putting your advertising, your messaging in front of people who are actively searching. So you know that these people are in the space to either inquire about a service or buy a product that you're selling. Again, in terms of reaching the right audience, that's very attractive, particularly if you have a large portfolio of products that you want to sell. There are other formats, other features on Google and other platforms as well, where you can do different things, not necessarily always about selling. But one of the benefits in terms of e-commerce is that you know you're getting in front of the right people who are literally about to put their hand in their pocket and get their credit cards out, or whatever it might be. So there's a lot of benefits to why you would choose paid media. I think I do a different presentation sometimes about the differences between paid and organic. I'm not going to dwell on that in this presentation. They both have benefits. They both do a job, and very often they both work together very well. But sometimes, needs must, and paid is the option that clearly stands out. One thing to remember about everything that we go through today, it is part of a bigger picture. Understanding that bigger picture will give you an idea of where the opportunities lie. So, we're going to talk about Google, shopping and search, obviously, because of the e-commerce aspect. It is the go-to platform, format, etc. But again, depending on what your objective is, what your strategy is, what it is that you're trying to achieve, there are lots of other platforms out there. And the other platforms also offer very much an e-commerce slant as well, increasingly so, in fact. Some of them are more suited to brand awareness, connecting with communities, kind of creating a following for your brand, collecting followers on obviously the socials. But even Facebook offers a kind of e-commerce slant in terms of what they do. Probably the one that's emerging the quickest and offering the most interesting take on e-commerce is TikTok. Again, John and I have been to a presentation by the guys from TikTok actually this year, where they showed us the system and give us an insight into where they're going with that. But it is an interesting one. They're very much geared towards e-commerce, whereas Facebook, Instagram, the e-commerce side of that was retrofitted, if that's the right term. TikTok has kind of been designed around the fact that they want to make sure that they have that e-commerce ability in place right from the start. And one of the interesting things, obviously, about TikTok is that there's a younger demographic coming through who are probably more inclined to use TikTok, and certainly more inclined to use TikTok to research products and then go on to buy them as well. That's not to say that Google, is over and it's on its last legs. There's no signs of that yet. But certainly in the next few years, TikTok, it'll be an interesting one to watch from an e-commerce perspective, because everything we say today about Google is as relevant to TikTok today. But again, the shift in demographics, the shift in online behavior, all of that kind of stuff, it's all moving parts. It's all in play at the moment. Interesting space to watch. So creating a strategy using in paid media. We go back slightly just before we kind of go into the nuts and bolts of it. There are a few things that I like to look at when I'm doing my research. And when I talk about creating a strategy or a plan, I am kind of, I guess, experienced enough to know and to understand that the more research, the more planning you do, the more successful you'll be. When you say it out loud, it's a no-brainer, really. But I've learned from trial and error and from experience that the more research, the more effort you put in at the front end, the more likelihood there is that there's going to be performance and success at the other end. The outcomes are going to be better. To understand that, I look at maybe 10 different things in terms of, first of all, looking at what I've got to offer as a product, as a service, and what that actually means. So, first of all, don't do what everyone else is doing. The digital space is such that Everyone's trying to stand out. And obviously you use the platform and the features within the platform to the best of your ability. If you're using it and just ticking boxes, you're not going to stand out. So it's always try and kind of, put your own take on it. Make sure that you do something that not everyone else is doing. That could be down to content. It could be down to the type of audience that you're putting yourself in front of. It could even be the platform that you're using. If your competitors are not using YouTube, maybe that's where you should be. Do something different, reach that audience out there. Understand the funnel. Now on the right-hand side of this slide, we've got the marketing funnel, which is basically, you've probably seen it in different guises, in different formats, but essentially it's the same thing. It's that kind of path to purchase or path to conversion that we talk about as marketers. Now, understanding the funnel will help you lead you to understanding both where your audience are and what their needs are, and what format and what platform potentially you need to engage with so that you can reach that audience. So understanding the funnel is really important. If we look at top of funnel, we're all about awareness. That's probably suited to new businesses who want to make sure that they're connecting with the right people, but people who will never have heard of them before. It is very much a brand awareness thing. At the top of the funnel, very often people are researching. So they're not ready to commit to buying something yet. They haven't discovered it, or they haven't researched it in enough depth. As we go down to the bottom of the funnel, we get to conversion. Now, conversion is what we're going to focus on in the rest of the presentation. It's the part of the funnel where people have done their research, consciously or unconsciously, but they're ready to buy something. They're ready to commit. Maybe it's a service that they want, maybe it's a product, but that bottom of funnel is where we're going to focus. And that's where you're going to get the quickest wins, and also in terms of e-commerce, the sales in volume. If you focus top of funnel, yes, you're still going to achieve sales, you're going to still achieve conversions, but you're reaching an audience, you're connecting with an audience who are not quite ready to commit at that moment in time. As a long burner, as a kind of long game strategy, you have to do some work around the top of funnel as well as bottom of funnel. But again, understanding that funnel will give you more of a steer and more of an idea and confidence about where your audience are, what their needs are, and what platforms and formats you need to use. That leads nicely on to the kind of content and the kind of message that you want to put. So if we go through the next few points on that list of 10, specialize, be useful, solve a problem, be present, make it easy, make it rewarding. All of those things are about you trying to be helpful, because again, you can use the platforms, you can use the features within the platforms. If everyone did it and just did it as a kind of tick box exercise just to get out there in front of people, it would be pretty plain, it would be pretty ordinary. The thing that distinguishes good advertising online from bad advertising online is that problem solving element. It's that bit that makes you the person, the specialist in that vertical, or the person who's going to solve that problem. Now, again, you may be kind of listening to this and thinking, well, how does that relate to products, and actual kind of sales of a portfolio of products in whatever vertical? Well, it's a way of making you stand out. If we're talking something, today would be quite relevant, certainly yesterday would be relevant. If we're talking about raincoats, then make sure that your problem solving is that you're going to make sure that someone stays dry when they're outside today, and getting that across in your content, in your messaging, can make you stand out far more than someone who just says, we sell raincoats. You're solving that problem. So again, when you look into it in relation to what you've got, there's always a route in, there's always a way to kind of make sure that you're using these things and bringing them to the front. Point 9, be seen in the right places. Again, the next couple of slides will kind of show you this in a bit more detail. But when I talk about be seen in the right places, it is about being in front of the audience that you want to be in front of, and being in front of them on the right platform. I often get people come to me and say, I need to do Facebook ads, for instance, because someone's told me I need to do Facebook. That's all very well. when you do the rate research, their demographic is 50 to 55-year-old men who don't use Facebook. They're actually using video. They're on YouTube. So again, it's about being seen in the right place, being efficient and understanding that. 10, really important from our agency's perspective, is be human. A lot of what we see online often is very dispassionate, very cold, bland even, doesn't kind of connect with us. It's surprising the number of big brands that we kind of come across or we see online, and they haven't quite nailed that human touch. We still want a relationship with a brand that we buy from. We want to know that we're not just a number, and it's not just part of this big machine. Google recently did a study where they found out that they polled a lot of people, and they found out that over 80% of people want that connection with a big brand, and they want to know that they're dealing with real people and they're being dealt with as a real person. So again, be human about this. Make sure that you've kind of got that element to it as well. Again, we've got a great copywriting team in the room here, and they are very much on the ball when it comes to writing content that gets across the fact that there are people behind this. It's not just ticking boxes as an exercise. So again, bear that in mind when you're kind of coming up with your strategy and doing your research. Because when you've done all of that, that will then show you or highlight the objective that you're after. And again, we're going to be talking about obviously online sales, but it highlights the objective, point one. Point two, it will lead you to the right format. Again, I've already said, very often we talk to people who think they need one thing. You actually do the research, and it turns out they needed something completely different, a different platform, a different format, whatever it might be. So doing that research will kind of lead you in that direction. And again, if we're talking from an agency perspective and from a digital perspective, you'll hear lots of people say data-driven as a kind of buzz phrase. You should be data-driven. A lot of conversations we have had over the years have been with people who own businesses, and yes, they know their business, but actually they don't know digital, and so they kind of feel or they kind of make decisions based on what they think will happen. Well, digital has kind of broken the mold in that respect. We've got data. We've got data to kind of guide us and show us what's right, what's wrong, and where we should be doing things and where we shouldn't be doing things. Again, all that research will point you in that direction and help you to understand the platform, the format, and how to use those to get to your objective or to achieve your objective. Just bringing this all back to a point I raised earlier about keyword research. Keyword research is the kind of foundation of pretty much everything we do in terms of digital marketing. The creative, which I'll mention later, is obviously key. Again, I've been to quite a few presentations recently with different themes and different kind of ideas being presented, but they all say if you don't get the creative right, no matter how you do all this, how well you understand the theory and how you understand all this application, if the creative isn't right, then you're probably onto a loser. But aside from that, the other thing that I always think is one of the foundations is the keyword research. And again, I can't emphasize this enough. It does come up all the time. But when we're talking about keyword research, it's relevant for your search campaigns. It's relevant for the way that you put your pages together for products that are then connected to your merchant center and your shopping feeds that can be plugged into Google Shopping ads, Facebook ads, TikTok ads, whatever it might be. All of that should be built on the back of solid keyword research. On the left here, you can see some examples of keywords to do with car seats for babies. It's a client that I've worked with for quite a while, so I know a bit about that space. But doing the keyword research throws up so many different keywords that could be relevant. And you can see with the one that I've got at the top there, grayed out, called car seat. If we go back to what I was talking about in terms of the funnel, car seat is relevant. Obviously, that's one of the products that this baby company sells is car seats, and everyone needs one when they've had a baby. So car seat would be very relevant. but actually car seat sits at the top of the funnel. So if someone's searching car seat, their intent to buy is probably quite low. So you wouldn't necessarily want to spend money advertising car seat as a keyword on your search campaigns, because that's the research phase. However, you would want to apply that car seat keyword to content organically on a page that you're using, because that's where that person wants to visit and do their research. So again, understanding the keywords, the intent behind the keyword, will go a long way to understanding where you apply that and how you deliver your marketing strategy. As we move further down the funnel, in terms of keywords for this particular client, we've then got travel car seat. Now, for me, that sits kind of mid-table, if you like, in terms of that funnel. They have started doing their research. They're further on than that person just looking for a car seat is. And they are starting to understand what it is they actually need. At that point then, yes, we could be stepping in with some shopping ads. So does the page that we want to get that person to that sells a travel car seat, does it reference travel car seat? Is the title of the item relevant? Even stuff like your image tags or titles that you've got connected to your feed and your website, all of that should be linked to something like a travel car seat keyword. If you haven't got that kind of content and that keyword relevance in your page, your feed, etc., then you probably will show from a Google perspective in terms of showing your ads from a shopping feed or even a search campaign, but you won't show as often. The more relevant you can be and the more specific you can be with your keywords, the more often Google and other platforms will want to deliver your content out there in front of people. So again, it's a really biggie in terms of getting that right, because there may be 10 opportunities every day for you to kind of get in front of the ideal customer, the ideal client. But because you're not keyword focused enough, you're only getting put in front of 5 of those opportunities. So again, that kind of groundwork, that effort really pays off. The 3 keywords that are at the bottom of that left-hand side of the page there: baby car seat for 1-year-old, maxi cozy, Mica Pro, Eco. They're very specific. They're obviously towards the bottom. And I would suggest that maxi cozy, Mica Pro, Eco, if someone's searching for that, they literally want it delivered tomorrow. So you need to be there. You need to be present. You need to be seen. It's that level of detail in terms of the keywords that can be the difference between success and failure, certainly a sale and a non-sale. On the right-hand side here, I just thought I'd put this in here as a bit of qualifier on that as well. Google talks a lot about relevance. There's 3 things that you need to get right to add efficiency and maximize your opportunities on Google. Again, you can nuance this and relate it to all the other platforms as well. But your keywords need to be correct. You need to have the right keywords. Do the research, make sure that you know what it is that people are searching for, and use real data. Don't make it up. I've had so many instances over the years where people have kind of come to me with a list of keywords that they've done absolutely no research around at all. But they've literally sat down and thought, what would people search for? The one that I always kind of makes me smile is there was a car valeting service that was running during the summer once a few years ago. I wanted to use keywords that I'd researched around valet my BMW, that kind of stuff. The person who I was dealing with asked me if I could use make car shiny as a keyword. Now, no one searches for make car shiny when they want to valet their car. They just don't. When you get your keywords right, you need to get your ad copy right. The ad copy, whether that's a search ad or whether it's your feed, shopping feed, that's plugged into your website and then flows through to Merchant Center and shopping campaigns, your ad copy has to be correct. So again, make sure you reference those products, those keywords in the descriptions that you're using. Make sure your images are titled up and relevant. Make sure the title of the product is correct. All of those things can go towards maximizing your opportunity, your reach, and your visibility. The final element, the third element, is then the landing page. Make sure that you're sending that person who clicks on your ad after searching for that keyword, make sure you're sending them through to a relevant page. Again, it's one of those things that can can kind of be a bit frustrating when you think about it sometimes. People looking for car seats and a particular maxi cozy car seat, for instance, if you send them to the homepage of your website, okay, you know, you've sent them to the homepage. This is our business. This is what we do. However, there's a bit of legwork to do there. And again, we're lazy. We've become lazy because of the internet. If it's not presented to us immediately, we turn off, we go somewhere else. So rather than send people to the homepage of your website, send them to the page that has Maxi Cozy Mica Pro Eco on there as a product. It's a no-brainer. I talk about it sometimes in terms of, you know, buying Ryanair flights. If you want to go to Paris, there is a Paris airport on the Ryanair website. However, once you land, you've got another hour and a half on a coach to get to Paris. It's not Paris at all. And I kind of talk about your landing pages in a similar fashion. Make sure that you're sending that person to the destination that they are expecting to be sent to. Those three elements as well, really important from a user perspective and a user experience perspective. As well as that, though, they add efficiency and cost savings. If you don't get these three things right from a shopping or a search perspective, Google will make sure that they charge you a premium to show your ads. And again, you may see there may be 10 opportunities, but if you haven't got these three things right, you'll only be shown for 5 of those opportunities. At the same time, you may pay 50 or 100% more than your competitor, who is getting 8 out of 10 opportunities in terms of visibility, and has done the work on the keywords, the landing page, and the ad copy better than you. So again, if you do this correctly, you could, in theory, get twice as much traffic to your website for the same budget as someone who's paying that premium. It's a no-brainer, and I've seen it so many times. It's all to do with quality scores and ad relevance, which is a whole different topic. But if you want to go and look that up, by all means do it. It's really interesting. We see it so often just by ticking those boxes or making sure that you're covered in those 3 areas can save you pounds in terms of cost per click sometimes. Really valuable stuff. And obviously, if you do that, it has a complete incredible knock-on effect in terms of not just your conversion volume, but your cost per conversion. Previously, you know, you may have been paying £10 for a conversion. You get this right, and you're paying £2 for a conversion. Makes economic sense. And again, all of that research, all of that kind of reference to keywords and the building blocks, if you like, is relevant no matter what kind of format that you're engaging with and using to deliver your message, whether it's video, whether it's display, stuff like business listings as well. Even your social content, you know, that should all be built around the messaging that the keyword research tells you is what people actually are interested in and are looking for. Which brings us nicely to shopping and Performance Max. Now, Performance Max, just for a bit of context, Performance Max is one of the newer formats from Google. It's funny, Bing has also released a new format ad recently, and they've called it Performance Max. I don't want to say that Bing copy Google. They do, but I won't say that. But they literally do copy Google. So everything that you can do on Google here, you can do on Bing. And in many respects, they call it exactly the same thing as well. So Performance Max is a new ad format from Google. Now, I say that with a bit of kind of a smile on my face because it's been around for a few years now. It is still one of the newest formats, and it's the format that was introduced to tap into a couple of things, primarily AI and machine learning. So everything else, every other format goes back and has a bit of history, 10, 15 years history to it. And it was all built on, I'm going to describe it as an analog platform. Everything that you did on those legacy formats that are still available is very much manual. You have that manual input, particularly with the targeting. Performance Max was the first format that Google built, which was entirely built from the ground up with AI and machine learning as its foundations. It's actually built on the data. So that's an interesting thing, and we'll kind of mention that again in a second. The other thing that's got that Performance Max has going for it is that it connects you with lots of different Google products. So again, when it was first released, people looked at it with a bit of suspicion, because on the surface of it, you could say, oh, this is a one size fits all. It's a quick way of Google making lots of money by saying, create Performance Max. You'll get YouTube, display, search, discover, Gmail, maps, and shopping as well, all thrown in there in one format, almost kind of one size fits all. And Google's done this before in different guises, where it says, don't do any of the legwork, don't do the keywords, don't even do the copy, just give us £50 a month and we'll put some ads out for you. And it never works very successfully. So we kind of take this with a pinch of salt when it comes out. For 6 months, it's kind of not achieving the results that Google said it would. But again, I'm old enough and ugly enough to know that Google, when they release stuff and they say it's come out of beta, they're actually still in a beta process. They're just throwing it open to a wider audience and they're still testing it. 2 years down the line, and Performance Max is now outperforming many of the search campaigns that were doing very well for businesses. And this is not just from me and from us as an agency, but you see that across the board in terms of digital marketing. Performance Max has really, really improved. And it is down to the fact that it's plugged into AI and machine learning from the very get-go. And there's no retrofitting of anything. It is what it is what it is. It's also the format that has kind of taken over from shopping. I saw a campaign yesterday, actually, that's still using a legacy shopping campaign. Google did say they wouldn't allow that after last June or July, I think it was. You can still use your old legacy shopping campaigns. That's fine, but Performance Max is a better option. So again, if you're using shopping at the moment, and it's not a Performance Max shopping campaign, this is where you should be looking. The benefits of Performance Max, as I've said, are that it was built on AI and machine learning. It really is from the ground up. It's built in, and it's kind of baked in terms of the data that is inherent in the platform. What that means is that the manual decisions that used to take quite a lot of time for us to manually influence, they're all being done in real time, quicker than we can kind of appreciate. Google has a real stronger and more confident ability to put you in front of people whose intent is high. Again, if we go back a few years, if someone searched for a particular keyword, you were using it, your ad would be delivered. You wouldn't necessarily know that that person was in the space to convert, i.e. bottom of funnel, or were they researching top of funnel. Google will now have all that information plugged in, and it will say, this is the first time this person's ever searched for this search term. Potentially that means that they are top of funnel. Now, you've said to the system that your campaign is all about bottom of funnel, so you won't get shown for that auction. Google will say the intent just isn't high enough. What you've said to us and how it matches up with the profile of that person, they just don't correlate. They don't match. However, someone else searches for exactly the same thing. Google looks at the data again and says, this person's been searching for this for 3 weeks. They've gone on YouTube. They've looked at 2 hours worth of video content around this product or service. They've also been through the checkout once, but didn't actually go and complete the checkout process on a different website. It all indicates that this person really wants to buy this product or buy into this service. You've got that keyword in your account, you'll be shown for it. Your ad will go into that auction. Again, it's really sophisticated stuff like that in the background that's going on, that's making sure that Performance Max is performing better than some of its search equivalents. You reach the desired audience outside of standard search. And again, it goes back to what I was saying about that data. We've got our keywords, we've got our targeting, it's very focused, we're in control of it. However, the system says there's a keyword search going on at the moment, and you don't cover it. It's a variation on one of your keywords. It might even be completely different. But the intent for this is so high that Performance Max is going to say to you, I'm going to put your ad in that auction because I believe that you are delivering the right content to this person at the right time. Again, one of the ways that we started to test and kind of implement this was we ran those kind of Pmax campaigns alongside search to plug the gaps that were inherent or apparent in our search campaigns, because our search behavior has changed so much over the years now. We don't just put in a keyword, go to the website and convert. I think the latest info is, well, it's ridiculous. The amount of websites that we look at before we actually do commit to a purchase or a lead gen is ridiculous. I remember a few years ago, I saw a presentation by Levi's, They reckoned at that time that there were 32 visits to their website by your average customer before they actually bought a pair of jeans. I think it's even more now. It's ridiculous. You get that multi-platform placement in terms of what I showed you on the previous slide. So you've got all the options here. By default, they're all there. But if you set up your Performance Max as a shopping campaign, i.e. you plugged it into your shopping feed, 95% of what you're going to be delivered for is still shopping, with the nuance of you may get some shopping ads feature on YouTube channels, etc., etc. The same if you don't plug that into a shopping feed and you're using Pmax for other reasons. Generally, what we're seeing is that those Pmax ads are shown on search pages 95% of the time. Again, they're not being shown on YouTube channels or display or Gmail or whatever. Those are the additions that it can work with, but they're not the kind of 100% focus. Again, real-time automated bidding and delivery based on your goals. Again, this relates also to point 8 as well. Performance Max is very much focused on e-commerce and generating goals in volume. Again, back in the day, you could have a goal for impression share. So you could, if someone's choosing a keyword, you want to be shown as often to 100% as possible for that keyword search. You could just go for traffic to a website. There was all these kind of almost soft goals that you could put your advertising around or link to a strategy. Those are kind of being mothballed now. Everything that Google's trying to, funnel us down in the direction of is towards a very much a ROAS and a commerce-based goal focus. And again, Performance Max, you're either looking at conversions in volume or you're looking at target CPA. So what is it that you're prepared to pay for a sale or a goal? Again, that focus on e-commerce is really valuable because you can then break down your campaigns and the components within your campaigns and have several different goals going on all at once. If you've got a large portfolio of products, obviously that's very attractive. You've got the ability to include images and videos in your ads. Again, there's so many nuances here, but as well as just your standard shopping and search ads, there are opportunities for you to put that kind of ad on different placements around Google that also include a video playing next to it. I was working with a kind of quite an expensive luggage brand the last few months. And one of the things that we've been able to do with them is include their shopping ads on nice different placements across the Google platforms and have a really interesting, very high quality video playing next to it to kind of almost accentuate that aspirational aspect of the luggage, because it really is £800–900 for a suitcase. But the aspirational side of that came across really well in the video. We show the video next to the ads as well on different placements, and suddenly they start to get some interesting conversions. So again, there's some additional features there that are being developed and probably will get better over time as well. Improved targeting. One of the things that you can do with Performance Max that you can't really do with other formats. Google's created this thing called signals. So you can create signals that indicate to the system what your ideal customer would be. Those signals can be based around your competitors' websites. They can be keyword lists. Again, they can go back to topics and interests type of thing. But one of the most interesting signals that we found is very useful in terms of driving performance is first-party data. So if you've got a list of customers who converted, who bought, who inquired, whatever it might be, if you've got information about them and you've acquired that legally and it's all above board, you can send that list anonymously into the system in Google, and Google can use that and look at that as a signal as to what sort of audience you want your advertising to be put in front of. In very simple terms, what it does is it identifies a makeup and a kind of almost an audience type, a persona, and it looks for more of that exact same persona or audience type. When it finds that audience, it then starts to deliver your ad to that person. So, if you know that, there's a person over here who buys from you on a weekly basis, they're on the list, you get that uploaded. Google then says, well, actually, there's 100 people over here who wouldn't necessarily be found by traditional targeting, but because we know about the first party data and we can match it with all the data that we've got in the background here, all that machine learning, et cetera, we know that those 100 people, there's a strong likelihood that they will start to become weekly buy purchasers from you as well. So let's put your advertising in front of them. So again, there's lots and lots of benefits, and it is very much driven by machine learning. How do we put that strategy into a structure? Again, very simple explanation here in terms of what that means for potentially a business that sells baby products. It is about kind of focusing on the component parts. All of that information, all of that kind of research that you've done, the messaging, all that kind of stuff that you've identified and you've got right. Putting that into practice is easier said than done. But I've tried to kind of illustrate what that might look like in terms of a campaign build here. So, you could have one campaign that sells baby products and lots of keywords and lots of ads. You could do that with one search campaign. You could do that with one Pmax or shopping campaign. That's fine. And Google actually still encourages you to have one shopping campaign as a catch-all of all your products. I don't favor that because you're almost putting your high margin products in with your low margin products and almost treating them equally. There's a bit more to it than that. But the structure I favor is very nuanced and broken down. So you can see here the baby products broken down into car seats, prams, toys, and gifts. And then we've got local search campaigns for car seats, and we've got UK search campaigns for car seats, car seat systems. We've then got, if you look further down the kind of structure of that, we've got Pmax campaigns that target just high value products. We've got them that target just best sellers. We've then got Pmax campaigns based on life events. We can, one of those off the shelf or one of those interests and topics that we've got the ability to use to our advantage on Google and some of the other platforms as well, is that we can identify if people have recently moved into a new house, or they've had they're raising a new family. They've got kids who are between the ages of 1 and 3 or 5 and 6 or whatever it might be. There's life event information there that we can kind of tap into. And again, if we can identify that people have children between the age of 1 and 3, obviously baby products is a huge thing for them. We've then got the first party data, and the competitors one is also interesting. Just very quickly, I hate targeting competitor keywords or brand keywords of competitors. It's expensive, you pay a premium, and you never get the return that you think you will, because people are already brand ambassadors or advocates for another brand, and that's where they're always going to buy. However, a very cost-effective way of using Pmax is to put a list of your top 10 competitors in there as a keyword list, almost of just URLs, and say, anyone who's interested in these websites, I'd like to show them some of my alternatives as well, if possible. It's a lot more efficient, a lot more cost effective. Your hit rate isn't going to be the same as your nailed on Pmax campaigns that you've already created, but your hit rate's going to be better doing that than it would be if you went after those competitors just on a keyword search basis. So again, a few interesting things there. Just to finish, case study, worked with a company called Baby Birds, which, that's the reason why we've been showing you the examples we have in terms of baby products. We worked with them for a few years. This is from last year, October, November 2023 versus August, September 2023. It's an interesting one because I think, in terms of time frame, this is a kind of thing that we can expect as well this year for clients. If we look at this in the same similar kind of fashion, we're covering a period that has within it Black Friday, and we're also covering that period that's the run up to Christmas. Again, depending on your vertical, depending on your product, your website, etc., there will be a level of importance that this has on you. But again, as a kind of example, this is a really interesting kind of case study. The challenge for the guys at Baby Birds last year was to maximize sales in the run up to Christmas. Now, again, it's not necessarily a Christmas product, but it is one of those products that surprisingly people do get given for Christmas if they're expecting a baby and haven't had a baby yet. If they have a small family, they're obviously, there's a tick box there as well. One of the things that we found previously was that there was too much focus on the December period. By the time we get to December, the opportunity is pretty much gone. It's not completely gone, but it tapers down right until maybe 12th, 13th, 14th of December, and then it almost disappears. So the challenge was to maximize sales in the run up to Christmas. To do that, what we did was we created Pmax shopping campaigns to maximize the shopping listings and plug the gaps that search didn't reach. what I'm saying there is we segmented down the products into their groups, a bit like that previous structure that I was saying there. Rather than have a one-size-fits-all, what we did was we created Pmax campaigns that really focused on particular products. We did look at bestsellers, and we looked at high profit and high margin products, and we ring-fenced them. We then looked at car seat systems and a few other things as well. The outcome was that by segmenting down and structuring things around that kind of way, we got better qualified traffic to the website. That increased the sales and the revenue. In the period that we're measuring there, we increased traffic by 14%. We increased events on the website by 18%. Now, events can be anything from a sale to a video view, but it indicates that the engagement from the traffic that we got was 18% better than it had been previously. Shopping sales, so the volume went up in terms of sales by 106%. Overall, that added to the bottom line by 6.47% in revenue. Very worthwhile exercise. And this year, again, there'll be a revision of that and an implementation and a similar kind of thing. But it was a very good example of how just looking at your e-commerce side of things in a bit more of a granular way, with a bit more focus on the front right through to the end, the outcome, you can get some really interesting results. I'm going to finish there. I'm going to stop sharing and ask if there are any questions. I know I kind of overrun by about 10 minutes there as well. Apologies for that. Any questions? Okay, I'm going to take that as everything was covered.
Brilliant. That was wonderful, Mick. Thank you. And yeah, if anyone has any follow-up questions, just drop me an email. But I'll be sending out the recording and the deck after this as well. So anyway, so if all the people that haven't arrived today, we can get that to them as well. All right. Thank you very much, and have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.